I woke up this morning and my bins had been taken. When I say taken, they weren't stolen. Somebody came, picked them up and took them away. The people who took them away are called bin men. That's what we call them. But where do these bin men come from? They come from the local authority. So who are the local authority? What is their role? What do they do? Well, we're going to find out. Starting right now. The local authority in the UK is basically a local government that manages public services and local issues within a specific area, like a city, a town, or a county. It's like a mini government for your local area, and its purpose is to make sure every day things in that particular area are run smoothly. Each local authority has elected people as representatives, and they are called councillors. These councillors have been chosen by local residents who live in these areas through something called elections. And it is then the job of those people who are responsible for making decisions on behalf of that community. So what qualifications does it take for someone to be a councillor? Could I be a councillor? Could you be a councillor? Well, if you decided to get involved in becoming a councillor in your area, then there are only 3 things you really need to do. Number 1 is be aged 18 or over. Number 2, you must be a UK or EU or Commonwealth citizen, and either be registered to vote or on the current registry for the local council, or have either worked or lived in the council's area for 1 year. That sounds easy enough. Now from there you can decide to stand up for one of the political groups. There's a few of them. Or if you want, you can stand independently, which basically means that you are aware of all the issues in your local area and what your local council is doing about these issues. Then you have to get officially nominated, and that's done through your local council's Democratic Services Department. Oh, very posh. Now I think it's fair to say that the majority of us, or people, don't really vote. Do you vote? I know I don't. So that means that we haven't got a clue who's making these decisions for us on our behalf. Now these councillors make all the important decisions in our area, which include education. That's running all the local schools and managing administrations. You've also got something called social care, which is supporting vulnerable people like children, the elderly, or those with disabilities. Then we've got housing. That would mean managing social housing, council housing, and tackling homelessness. Then you've got waste management. So waste management is organising rubbish collection and recycling, as well as roads, transport, street lighting, and sometimes public transport like buses and choo-choo trains. Then you've got leisure, which is like running parks, libraries and sports centres. They're usually run by the local authority as well. There are different types of local authorities depending on the size or type of area that you live in. There are county councils. They handle larger rural areas. Then you've got district or borough councils who focus on smaller, more specific areas. Then you've got unitary authorities, which basically do both of them. So we need to know who makes all these decisions, and where do all these local authorities get the money to do all these things? It ain't cheap. It costs money. Where are they receiving this funding from? They receive it from the government, which is a big building based in London called the Palace of Westminster. This palace is located on the banks of the River Thames in London and is the seat of the British Parliament. That's where the king lives. Its origins date back to the 11th century when it served as a royal residence for the kings of England. This site became the centre of political power in 1295 when King Edward I called a parliament there, marking the beginning of its association with the government. That's interesting, isn't it? Today the Palace of Westminster hosts the two Houses of Parliament. You have the House of Commons and then you have the House of Lords. House of Commons and its elected chamber where there are certain people that have become members of this parliament, MPs, who debate and vote on legislation, which basically means laws. And if you break these laws, it's possible that you may be put in prison. Now, there are certain people who aren't happy with the decisions that the UK government make. And you will often find these people opposing them and opposing their government's decisions. And they do this outside these buildings of Parliament. These are called protesters. This palace also serves as a ceremonial location for events like a state opening or a parliament during which the monarch delivers the Queen or King's speech. And what they'll do, they'll outline the government's agenda. Oh, it's always an agenda, isn't it? These people do the decision making, which comes out of a heap of money called tax, which is paid by UK residents. That's basically you and I. So what is tax? What is it? Tax is the system through which the government takes money to fund public services and infrastructures. Taxes are collected from individuals, i.e. people, businesses and organisations in various forms, including income tax, value added tax, which we call VAT, and national insurance contributions. Income tax is paid by people's earnings, pensions and other income. That means if you work and you've got a job, you have to pay tax. VAT is a tax on goods and services, typically around 20%. And this is applied to most purchases, which is basically food. Businesses pay corporation tax on their profits, while national insurance helps fund benefits like pensions and unemployment. All the money generated from these collected taxes is crucial for funding essential public services. A large portion is spent on the National Health Service in the UK, which we call the NHS. NHS? Ensuring health care for all residents. Well, it's not free if we're paying for it, is it? Significant amounts of this money also go to education, supporting schools, universities, and vocational training programs. Social welfare is another key area, providing benefits for those unemployed or possibly disabled or maybe a low income brackets. Taxes also fund public safety, including the police, fire services and the criminal justice system. There is also defence spending, which pays the military and the infrastructure. Investments also go towards maintaining roads, railways and public transport. Also, taxes are used to fund local governments and international aid programs. So if there's poverty in a certain country, the UK will go and help them. Through taxation, the UK government is able to give a wide range of services that benefit society in a whole, which is good. This is continually helping people and maintaining a stable, functional country. That's why it's Great Britain. We've got it sorted, haven't we? So who created this government that we're giving all our money to? The UK government, as we know it today, was created over many centuries, evolving from a mix of historical events, decisions, and key figures. No single person created it, but several important milestones shaped its development. Interesting. The idea of the government in Britain began with early Anglo-Saxon kings around 9th century, and these kings in councils of advisors, which eventually led to the creation of Parliament, a place where nobles and clergy would help make decisions. Makes sense, you can't do it on your own. By the 13th century, Parliament became more formal, and then, I guess over time, it evolved to represent not just the nobles, but also common people like me. The House of Commons was there for elected representatives, and the House of Lords was for nobles and bishops. And this developed into two parts of Parliament. Then they had to work with Parliament, making a system more democratic, which means more equal. This then produced a modern era, meaning more people gained the right to vote, and Parliament's powers grew. Today in the UK, government is a constitutional monarchy where Parliament and elected officials hold most power through the monarch, which remains the symbol or symbolic figure. God save the Queen. Or King, because unfortunately, sadly, the Queen passed away. So basically, I hope that helps you understand a little bit about what your local authority are and what they do. So basically, it's run by councillors who are human beings like me, like you. They volunteer to be councillors, and then they get put on this board, and they're the ones that make all the decisions. It's a mini government. So the big government is in a huge building in London, and that information in legislations is passed through all these little local authorities, and the little local authorities, they dictate and decide what's best for that local area. They do a pretty good job actually, considering. Some do a better job than others, and you can usually tell if you've got a good local authority by the area itself. Has it got low crime rate, high education? Is it well maintained? Is the area running smoothly like clockwork? If it is, then you've got a good local authority. Did you know some local authorities in the UK actually went bankrupt? So what makes something like that happen? Bad decisions. And where did these decisions come from? The councillors. So there you go. That is a short little video which hopefully may educate you a little bit, so you understand a little bit more about the local authority, what is their job, and yeah, why do we have them? And there you go. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll do another video about something completely irrelevant, but something you should always pay attention to, because sometimes in life there's things that we should look at, and one of them is certainly the local authority, because they're the ones that are making the decisions for people like me and people like you.